Silicon Valley Bank was once the 16th largest bank in the country and the go-to bank for tech startups and venture capitalists. It had more than $200 billion in assets and served some of the most innovative and successful companies in Silicon Valley. But on March 10, 2023, everything changed. From 16th largest bank to second largest bank failure in US history right after the 2008 financial crisis. Many other videos have already covered what were the immediate causes of this failure, but let's discuss how its past and its history is actually one of the major contributors for the spectacular disaster. Just to give some context, the immediate reason for Silicon Valley Bank's failure is the fire sale of $21 billion in holdings at $1.8 billion, causing panic in the investors and customers. The panic led to a snowball effect of withdrawing money quickly. There are some external factors as well, like raising interest rates, that contributed to its failure. These reasons are valid and direct contributors of sealing the fate of Silicon Valley Bank. But there are deeper issues that SVB was struggling with that don't catch your eye at first. Before looking at the deeper issues, let's look at how the tech industry's much-loved Silicon Valley Bank started. If you directly want to know how the past played a role and their effects, skip to the failure factors section of this video to know them. But I would highly recommend you to stay with the video. It will give you the full context and motivation of SVB. Silicon Valley Bank, SVB, started out as a small community bank in California in 1983 by Bill Biggerstaff and Robert Medeiros over a poker game. But it had a big vision: to serve the needs of businesses that were funded by venture capital. These businesses were often ignored or misunderstood by traditional banks, but SVB saw them as an untapped market with huge potential. And boy, were they right. SVB soon discovered that there was a whole new industry emerging in Silicon Valley: the tech industry. And this industry needed a bank that understood its challenges and opportunities. A bank that could offer tailored solutions and products to help tech entrepreneurs and investors grow their businesses. A bank that could provide venture debt, equity financing, foreign exchange, and treasury management. That's exactly what SVB did. It became the go-to bank for many tech startups and venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. It earned a reputation for being innovative, flexible, and supportive of its customers. It also gained access to valuable information and networks in the tech ecosystem. It helped fund some of the most successful companies in Silicon Valley, such as Airbnb, Facebook, Netflix, Uber, and many more. By 2020, SVB had grown into a national and global bank with more than 40 offices across the US and overseas. It had more than $200 billion in assets and served more than 38,000 clients in various sectors such as technology, life sciences, healthcare, and clean energy. By 2021, over 50% of all venture-backed tech and healthcare IPOs were banking with SVB. Now that we know how they began and what they did, now let's see why they were bound to fail because of how they used to operate. Silicon Valley Bank has been one of the most unique and highly specialized banks that focused on serving the innovation economy. And it had a unique business model that relied heavily on investing in bonds and other securities that were sensitive to market fluctuations. That means SVB was always exposed to the ups and downs of the economy. But that wasn't the only risk SVB took on. It also had a high exposure to risky loans and investments in tech startups that were vulnerable to economic downturns. In other words, SVB was betting big on the future of the tech industry, and that strategy could pay off big or fail spectacularly. And we know what happened ultimately. And speaking of betting big, SVB had a culture that embraced risk-taking. The bank prided itself on being innovative and agile, but it also neglected some of the basic principles of sound banking. For example, it pursued aggressive growth strategies without adequate risk management controls. That meant it was always pushing the envelope and trying new things, but it also meant that it was taking big risks without always knowing the consequences. Another thing that set SVB apart was its narrow customer base. Most of its clients were tech startups and venture capitalists, and it had a high concentration of loans and investments in certain sectors, like biotech, fintech, and crypto. This made it vulnerable to cyclical downturns and market shocks that affected its clients' performance and solvency. Guess what happened with SVB during the dot-com bubble? Yeah, you guessed it right. They barely made it out of that financial disaster. Despite all of these risks, SVB managed to stay afloat for a long time. But it wasn't without its challenges. SVB had a history of regulatory violations and legal disputes that damaged its reputation and trustworthiness. It was involved in several scandals and lawsuits that alleged fraud, money laundering, insider trading, tax evasion, consumer abuse, and other misconducts. And it faced regulatory scrutiny and penalties from various agencies, like the FDIC, the SEC, the OCC, the CFPB, and others. These issues eroded its credibility and integrity among its stakeholders and exposed it to financial losses and liabilities. All in all, SVB was a fascinating bank with a unique approach to serving the innovation economy. Its focus on risk-taking and narrow customer base set it apart, but also exposed it to a variety of challenges and risks. All challenges and risks ultimately and sadly got the worst of it. Before I give you the brief of all the issues that led SVB to its current position, we would like you to pause for a moment and think about whether our channel is providing you with good content. If yes, we would like you to subscribe and like the video for great weekly thought-provoking content. If not, give us your feedback in the comments. We would love to know how we can improve and where we can improve. We are grateful that you are here to celebrate the why factor in you. SVB's investment strategy of solely investing in bonds and securities left them with limited diversification, resulting in higher risks and lower returns. When you consider their heavy investment in the tech industry proved to be a poor decision, as the industry experienced a downturn and caused significant losses for the bank. When it comes to SVB's culture of risk-taking, it encouraged reckless decision-making, leading to poor investment choices and ultimately financial losses. And with a narrow customer base, SVB was vulnerable to fluctuations in a single industry, making it difficult to recover from losses and maintain stability. Finally, SVB's erosion of credibility and integrity through a series of scandals and mismanagement ultimately led to a loss of trust from investors and clients. This loss of trust ultimately led to a lack of investment and funding, which contributed to the bank's ultimate failure. Despite being a top-performing bank for years, all these factors trickled to an eventual downfall of the Silicon Valley Bank and ultimately the shutdown. It's important to remember that SVB's downfall is not unique. Many other banks have experienced similar fates, often as a result of the same factors that led to the bank's downfall. So, what can we learn from the fall of SVB? Well, it's clear that businesses need to strike a balance between taking risks and protecting their interests. They need to diversify their investments and be mindful of the changing landscape of their industry. But perhaps most importantly, they should have built a culture that values integrity and ethics above all else. By doing so, they could have ensured that they are making decisions that are in the best interests of their customers, shareholders, and the wider community. So, there you have it, how SVB's past has eventually led to its failure. It's a cautionary tale for us all, a reminder that even the most successful businesses can fall victim to their own success if they lose sight of what really matters. Thank you for watching. If you want to uncover the why factor of tech, business, and financial stories, we create videos every week on these topics. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to be notified of our next video. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below. See you in the next one.